After I shared the full reveal of my little Italian house, hundreds of people started warning me that I'd bought a disaster. So I did exactly what many of you suggested. I asked a local geometra to inspect it and tell me the truth. Some of these comments genuinely worried me. I started wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake. When I first showed this house online, one of the things people noticed straight away were the cracks. When you buy a house that's more than 150 years old, especially one built from stone in the hills of Piemonte, it's hard not to wonder what these walls have seen. In August of 2000, this very area was shaken by what became known as the Monferrato earthquake. And because it occurred at a shallow depth, the effects were felt strongly across the province of Alexandria and Asti. More than 2,000 areas reported damage. Plaster fell from ceilings, chimneys collapsed, old masonry buildings cracked. Hundreds of families were forced from their homes while inspections took place. The shaking reached an intensity of around 6 to 7 on the Mercalli scale, strong enough to cause significant damage to older structures. And it wasn't just one earthquake. There were smaller tremors before the main event, and aftershocks continued in the days that followed. For people living here at the time, it must have been frightening. The ground beneath them, in a place not known for major earthquakes, suddenly reminded everyone that nowhere is completely immune to nature. Looking at the bent beam in this house, looking at the cracks in the walls, it's hard not to imagine what this building has lived through. Wars, economic hardship, families coming and going, and earthquakes. But after all of that, these walls are still standing. I recently had the geometra inspect the property. He looked at the structure, the cracks, the movement, and the condition of the building itself. His conclusion was reassuring. Yes, this is an old house. Yes, it bears the marks of its history. But there is no major structural damage. The house was built solidly, and despite everything that it has experienced over the past century and a half, it has withstood the earthquakes that have come before. This house isn't perfect. It's weathered, it's scarred, and yet after 150 years, it still stands here on this hillside, waiting for its next chapter. And somehow, I find that incredibly comforting. And then there was the roof. If you asked me before all of this started what I was most worried about, the roof probably would have been near the top of the list. Old roofs usually sound expensive, but this turned out to be one of the simplest fixes of all. During the inspection, the geometra found just 4 roof tiles that had cracked over time. Nothing dramatic, no major structural concerns, just 4 tiles that had reached the end of their working life. What I loved though was the solution. Tucked away in the cellar were spare roof tiles that had been kept from years gone by. The damaged tiles were removed and replaced with the originals that had been stored downstairs. A quick, simple repair, and the roof was made whole again. For now, the roof is sound, the spare tiles remain, and this old house carries on doing exactly what it has done for more than 150 years, sheltering the people that call it home. The next thing we looked at was the cellar. If you've ever owned an old house, you'll know that cellars have a personality of their own. They're cool, they're damp, and they tend to reveal every little issue that's been quietly developing over the years. One of the concerns down here was the humidity. The cellar ceiling is made of brick, and over time, the outer layers of those bricks has started to deteriorate. There was also moisture collecting on the steel beams overhead, causing surface rust and damp patches appearing on the floor near the walls. At first glance, it all looked quite alarming. But once again, having the expert walk through the property brought a lot of perspective. The geometra explained that the humidity itself was the real issue, not an immediate structural emergency. The cellar already had ventilation openings, but he felt they weren't large enough to allow sufficient airflow. So one of the first things he did was increase the size of those ventilation holes to help the space breathe. While inspecting the cellar, we also discovered a leaking pipe, which was contributing to some of the water collecting on the floor. That leak was repaired, and the steel beams were treated with an anti-rust paint to protect them from further corrosion. The plan was simple: improve the ventilation, fix the leak, and then wait a few days to see how the cellar responded. After a few days, there was still some dampness present. Was that there was actually another leak further along the pipe, which explains why part of the floor remained wet. The geometra also told me that the crumbling bricks in the ceiling weren't the disaster I had imagined. The deterioration is limited to the first surface layer of brick. The layers underneath remain solid and structurally sound. His advice was reassuring. It's something that can be repaired in the future, but it doesn't need immediate intervention. When you're restoring an old house, every imperfection can feel overwhelming at first. Every crack, every stain, every patch of rust seems to tell you that everything needs fixing right now. But often, that's not the case. Sometimes it's simply a matter of understanding what you're looking at, prioritising what matters most, and accepting that these houses have been standing for generations. They weren't built to be perfect. They were built to endure. This cellar has probably been damp for decades. It has stored harvests, sheltered families, and witnessed countless seasons come and go. And now it's teaching me patience. Not everything has to be solved today. Some things simply need a plan, a bit of maintenance, and time. The property has 2 gates, the large gate that opens to the driveway and the smaller gate that you walk through each day. Both their locks had stopped working properly. Years of weather, use, and time had taken their toll. The mechanisms had seized, the metal had worn down, but this time, instead of adding another job to the list for someone else, I realised this was something I could do myself. Before all of this, before Italy, before YouTube, before this old house, I worked as a metal artist. I spent years welding, grinding, cutting steel and building things with my hands. I repaired the damaged sections, fitted new locks and brought both gates back to life. The big gate now opens and closes as it should. The small gate clicks shut properly again. Simple things really, but there's something deeply satisfying about fixing something with your own hands. I think we often underestimate the skills we carry with us through life. The truth is, every job we've had, every hobby we've tried, every challenge we've overcome becomes part of who we are. And sometimes, years later, those experiences return exactly when we need them. Out in the garden there is an old well with a heavy lid that lifts open, but I couldn't stop thinking about the fact that someone could accidentally open it and fall in. It wasn't likely, but it was possible, and sometimes peace of mind is worth more than waiting until something becomes a problem. So this fix was about as straightforward as they come. A length of chain, 2 padlocks, a few minutes of work, and just like that, the well was secure. So after weeks of comments coming in telling me that the house was about to collapse, The verdict is finally in. And structurally, it's far better than I could have hoped for. And I truly feel like I could be the luckiest person in the world. Of course, there's still plenty of things I could do, like insulation, double glazed windows. I'd love to have a proper stove in the kitchen, redesign the bathroom, and get rid of this awful yellow and brown. I'm hoping or thinking maybe like a terracotta or a peach with a eucalyptus or sage green for the shutters. But that's way down the track. So the plan at the moment, or the next step forward, is to get the humidity and dampness under control in the cellar. So I will work on that first, and then next I'll look at heating, windows, insulation. But my budget is very low, so I will just take it very slowly.